Jacob. Hale never thought a single moment could change the direction of his whole life. But that morning, it did. He was riding across the dry Arizona plains when he heard it. Two little voices crying for help, echoing from a narrow canyon where no one should have been. And before he even knew what he was doing, Jacob jumped off his horse and ran. What he found would stay with him forever. Two tiny Apache girls, no older than 7, huddled beside a fallen tree, trapped, terrified, and alone. Jacob didn't think. He didn't hesitate. He just acted. Because kindness to him wasn't a choice, it was instinct. And that instinct ended up saving their lives. Before we continue this powerful story, make sure to like, share, and subscribe to Heart Trail Stories, where every story reminds us that kindness still matters. Jacob freed the little girls, gave them water, wrapped them in his coat, and carried them back toward the open desert. He didn't know where their family was. He just knew he couldn't leave them there. But fate had its own plans. As he reached the ridge, a young Apache woman stepped out from behind the rocks. Tall, fierce, beautiful, and breathless with worry. Her name was Nayeli. At 25, she had learned to hide her fear from the world. But not in that moment. Tears streamed down her face as she ran to her sisters. She dropped to her knees, hugging them tight, whispering their names as if saying them would keep them alive. Then she looked up at Jacob. And in that single glance, something shifted. Not because he was a hero, not because he had done something grand, but because she saw gentleness in a world that so often forgot it existed. Why did you help them?" she asked softly. Jacob shrugged, embarrassed by the attention. "They were scared," he said. "Anyone would have." But Nayeli shook her head. Not everyone would have, not in a land divided by fear, whispers, and history. As they walked back to her village, the girls clinging to his hands, Jacob noticed Nayeli watching him. Not with suspicion, but with gratitude, with curiosity, with something warmer than he expected. The twist came later that night, when the tribal elders invited him to stay for a meal. He thought it was simply thanks. But then Nayeli's grandmother pulled him aside and told him the truth. The girls had been missing since dawn. Tracks showed a mountain lion nearby. If Jacob hadn't found them when he did, the outcome would have been very different. Jacob felt a chill run down his spine. He hadn't just helped. He had arrived at the exact minute they needed someone. A minute that separated life from tragedy, and Nayeli knew it too. Over the next days, Jacob became part of the village routine, fixing fences, fetching water, helping with small tasks. Every time he turned, the little girls were following him like two shadows. Every time he smiled, Nayeli's heart softened just a bit more. But she never said anything. Until the night before he planned to leave. Under the desert stars, she walked up to him, hands trembling slightly. "My sisters trust you," she whispered. "And they don't trust easy." Jacob nodded. "They're special kids." "They are," she said, "but you gave them something I couldn't." "What's that?" "Safety." Her voice cracked. "And hope." She took a slow breath, gathering the courage she rarely used. "They told me something before bed," she added. "They said, they want you to come back." He smiled gently. "Do you want me to come back?" Nayeli didn't answer with words. She just stepped closer and rested her forehead against his chest. It wasn't a confession. It wasn't a promise. It was something deeper. A heart that had been guarded for years, finally letting someone in. Jacob left the next morning. But he didn't leave alone, because two little girls ran after him with handmade bracelets, pressing them into his hands. "For when you come home," they whispered. And Nayeli, she just stood there, eyes shining in the sunrise, hoping he understood. He did. And as Jacob rode away, he realized this wasn't the end of a story. It was the beginning of one. A story born not from romance or destiny, but from a simple act of kindness that connected 4 lives forever.